What if the next great step in human evolution isn't driven by natural selection, but by human choice? What if the limits of your body and mind were no longer set in stone, but in code? What if we could edit our genes, not just to cure disease, but to enhance our strength, our intelligence, our very lifespan? What happens when the line between human and machine blurs beyond recognition? And what does it mean to be human in a world where we can redesign ourselves from the ground up? What if the next great step in human evolution isn't driven by natural selection, but by human choice? What if the limits of your body and mind were no longer set in stone, but in code? What if we could edit our genes not just to cure disease, but to enhance our strength, our intelligence, our very lifespan? What happens when the line between human and machine blurs beyond recognition? And what does it mean to be human in a world where we can redesign ourselves from the ground up?
Hello, everyone, and a huge welcome to Future Vision Talks. I'm your host, Jordan. If those opening questions sparked even a flicker of curiosity in your mind, then you're in the right place. Here on this channel, we don't just report on the future. We try to understand it. We dive deep into the technologies and ideas that are shaping our world, breaking down the complex into the understandable. We have an incredible journey ahead of us today, exploring one of the most profound and frankly mind-bending topics of our age. So, if you're excited to peer over the horizon at what's coming, make sure you're subscribed and have that notification bell clicked. That way, you won't miss a single one of our deep dives into tomorrow. The future waits for no one.
Today, we're tackling a structure that YouTube itself suggested to me, and it's a perfect one. The bioengineered future, rewriting human potential. For centuries, the idea of enhancing humans has been the stuff of comic books and sci-fi. But I'm here to tell you that the era of human augmentation is no longer a fantasy. It's emerging in labs and clinics around the world right now. We are beginning to grasp the tools that will allow us to rewrite the source code of life, to upgrade our physical hardware, and to amplify our cognitive software. But this isn't a simple story of progress. It's a double-edged sword filled with immense promise and equally immense peril. Are we merely treating diseases, or are we actively beginning to upgrade humanity? And if we are, who gets to decide what an upgrade even is? Over the next while, we're going to go on a journey together. We'll start by looking at the dawn of human augmentation, what's already here. Then we'll unlock the door to potential superhuman abilities. After that, we must, and I mean must, navigate the ethical minefield this technology creates. We'll look at how it could transform our very society. And finally, we'll ask what it means for the human story itself. So, buckle up. Let's dive in. To understand where we're going, we need to see where we are. The dream of augmentation is ancient. A wooden leg is a simple augmentation. Glasses are an augmentation. But what's happening today is a fundamental leap. We're moving from assisting the body to reprogramming it. Let's break down the three key areas that are already blowing minds in the scientific community. Now, that might sound like technical jargon, but let me break it down in the simplest way possible. Think of your DNA as an enormous, multi-volume instruction manual for building and running a human body. It's 3 billion letters long. Now, imagine that manual has a few typos. Typos that cause devastating genetic diseases like sickle cell anemia or Huntington's disease. For most of history, we could read the manual, but we couldn't edit it. We were stuck with the typos. Then we discovered CRISPR. Think of CRISPR as a pair of molecular scissors with a built-in GPS system. Scientists can program this GPS to find one specific, precise sequence in those 3 billion letters, the typo. The scissors then cut the DNA at that exact spot. From there, the cell's own repair machinery can be harnessed to either delete the faulty gene or even insert a new, correct one.
This isn't theory, it's happening. The first CRISPR-based therapies have already been approved and are curing people of sickle cell disease. We are literally rewriting the code of life to erase diseases that have plagued families for generations. But as we'll see, the power to correct typos soon becomes the power to rewrite chapters for enhancement. The classic image of a prosthetic is a static, clumsy hook or a cosmetic hand. Not anymore. The new frontier is creating limbs that feel like a part of you. How? By connecting them directly to your nervous system. Researchers are developing prosthetics with sensors that send signals to the brain, creating a sense of touch. They're also developing systems that read the electrical signals from your brain or remaining nerves, your intent to move, and translate that into fluid, natural motion. People are now controlling robotic arms with their thoughts, picking up delicate objects and feeling the texture of what they're touching. This is the literal blurring of the line between biology and machine. It's not just a tool, it's becoming an integrated part of the human body.
This one is perhaps the most subtle, but no less revolutionary. We're already seeing the beginnings of brain-computer interfaces. Companies like Neuralink are working on tiny implantable chips that can read neural activity at an unprecedented scale. The initial goal is noble: to help paralyzed individuals control computers or phones with their minds, restoring a degree of independence. But the implication is staggering. If you can read the brain's signals for move cursor left, could you eventually read the signals for more complex thoughts? Could we develop direct neural interfaces for memory recall or communication? We're setting the stage, and the fundamental question, the one that hangs over all of this, is this: are we just building better wheelchairs and better medicines? Or are we laying the foundation for a humanity that can actively choose to be stronger, smarter, and healthier than evolution ever intended? We are no longer passive recipients of our biology. We are becoming its active directors.
So, we have the tools. Now, let's let our imaginations run wild, responsibly, for a moment. Where could this lead? What does the upgraded human of the future look like? Let's explore the potential for what some might call superhuman abilities. We've used selective breeding in animals for millennia to create stronger horses or faster dogs. Now, imagine applying that precision to humans, not through breeding, but through direct genetic and biological modification.
We already know of a gene called MSTM that limits muscle growth. Natural bodybuilders often have mutations in this gene. What if we could safely edit this gene in adults? We could create individuals with vastly increased muscle mass and strength without the need for steroids. We could modify the efficiency of our blood cells to carry more oxygen, creating endurance that would make today's elite marathoners look like amateurs. We could strengthen bones to be nearly unbreakable, reducing the frailty of old age. This is the big one. Aging, biologically, is the accumulation of cellular damage. Our telomeres, the protective caps on our chromosomes, shorten. Our cells accumulate errors. But what if we could treat aging not as an inevitability, but as a disease? Gene therapies are already being tested in animals to reverse aspects of aging. We're talking about interventions that could repair this cellular damage, potentially extending our healthy, vibrant health span decades beyond the current norm. We may not be talking about immortality, but a future where living a healthy, active life to 120 or 150 is the new normal.
This is where it gets really wild. The human brain is the most complex object we know of in the universe. What if we could upgrade it? Imagine a world where you never forget a name, a face, or a fact. Where you can learn a new language in months instead of years. Neural interfaces could one day allow for the direct downloading of information, not in the I know kung fu style of the Matrix, but perhaps through accelerated, targeted stimulation of the brain's learning pathways. We could develop drugs or genetic therapies that enhance neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, making learning a continuous, fluid process throughout life. What if you could turn off distraction at will? What if you could enter a state of flow on command? By understanding the brain's neurochemical and electrical patterns that underlie focus and creativity, we could develop non-invasive stimulators or safe pharmaceuticals to help us access these states more reliably. This isn't just about being a better student. It's about unlocking the full creative potential of the human race. The ultimate human upgrade isn't just one thing. It's the convergence of all of these. A body that is strong and resilient for over a century, housing a mind that is sharp, agile, and capable of learning and creating in ways we can barely conceive of today. This is the potential. But, as Uncle Ben said in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And that leads us directly into the most difficult part of our discussion.
Welcome to the minefield. Every single step we take towards this bioengineered future is fraught with ethical dilemmas that could reshape our society in terrifying ways if we get them wrong. We cannot talk about the technology without staring directly into these abysses.
This is the poster child for the fears around bioengineering. We already have pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, or PGD, where during IVF, we can screen embryos for devastating genetic diseases like cystic fibrosis. That seems like an unambiguous good, right? But the slope is incredibly slippery. What about screening for a predisposition to breast cancer? Or for a gene linked to a higher risk of Alzheimer's? Still seems good. Okay, what about screening for gender? Or for eye color? Or for a genetic marker loosely correlated with taller height or higher IQ? Suddenly, we're not just avoiding disease, we're moving into a world of selection and enhancement. The term designer babies evokes a future where parents can select traits from a menu. This leads directly to the second part of this nightmare, a genetically stratified society. Imagine a world where the wealthy can afford to give their children genetic advantages, better health, taller stature, enhanced cognitive potential. Meanwhile, the rest of society is left with their natural, unenhanced biology. We could create the most profound and unbridgeable inequality in human history, a genetic caste system. The gap between the enhanced and the naturals wouldn't be about money or education. It would be baked into their very being. How could a naturally conceived child ever compete?
Therapy versus enhancement. Where do we draw the line? Is it therapy to use gene editing to cure a child of muscular dystrophy? Almost everyone would say yes. Is it therapy to use the same technology on a healthy child to give them muscles that are 50% stronger than normal? Most would say no, that's enhancement. But what about giving someone a genetic tweak that makes them resistant to HIV or the common cold? Is that preventing disease or enhancing the baseline? The line is blurry, and it's different for every person.
Who gets to decide where that line is? Scientists? Governments? Religious institutions? This isn't a scientific question. It's a philosophical and political one of the highest order. This is the ultimate question. There is no global consensus. In 2018, a Chinese scientist named He Jiankui announced he had created the world's first gene-edited babies. He edited their genes to try to make them resistant to HIV. The global scientific community reacted with universal horror and condemnation. Why? Because he acted unilaterally, without oversight, using an immature technology on humans, making permanent, heritable changes to the human gene pool. This case is a warning. It shows the urgent need for robust regulation, transparent public dialogue, and global cooperation. But can we ever achieve that? Will some countries ban these technologies while others become enhancement havens for the global elite? The potential for unintended consequences, for societal unrest, for new forms of discrimination, for a fundamental rupture in the human family is astronomical. The technology is racing ahead. Our ethical and legal frameworks are lagging dangerously behind. Navigating this minefield is the single greatest challenge of the coming century. Let's assume we navigate the minefield, at least partially. This technology will arrive in some form. So what would a world with bioengineered individuals actually look like? How would it transform the very fabric of our daily lives? In a world where cognitive enhancement is possible, what is the goal of school? If one child can have a neural implant that gives them perfect recall, does it make sense to have other children spend years memorizing facts? The entire system would have to shift from rote learning to fostering creativity, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence, skills that are harder to enhance with a simple chip. The workplace would become hyper-competitive and potentially stratified. Would you need to be enhanced to get a top job? Would cognitive capacity become a resume item? Would we see the emergence of jobs we can't even conceive of today, that only enhanced humans can't perform? And what about retirement? If people are healthy and sharp until 120, does the concept of retiring at 65 make any sense at all? How would dating change if you could genetically screen potential partners? Would there be stigma against dating naturals? What about the psychological impact on a child who knows they were designed by their parents to meet certain specifications? The dynamics of family, love, and identity would be profoundly challenged.
The bioeconomy is projected to be worth trillions. But who benefits? The corporations that hold the patents on these technologies will become more powerful than many nations. The global distribution will be a massive point of conflict. Will enhancing technologies be seen as a human right, distributed by national health services? Or will they be luxury goods available only to the global 1%? The potential for a new, biologically defined class war is very, very real.
And this brings us to the deepest, most philosophical layer of all. What does it mean to be human when our very biology is malleable? For all of history, humanity has had a shared, common biological experience. We are born, we grow, we age, we face disease, and we die. This mortality, this fragility, is at the core of so much of our art, our literature, our music, and our spirituality. It gives life its urgency and its beauty. If we start to remove those constraints, if we become ageless, disease-free, and cognitively superior, do we lose something essential about ourselves? Are we moving towards a transhuman or post-human future? Are we, in our quest to perfect ourselves, losing the very essence that made us us in the first place?
Return to Jordan in the studio. The lighting is softer, more reflective. The epic music from the intro returns, but now it's more contemplative and hopeful.
So, here we are. We've traveled from the first tentative steps in a lab to the very edge of the human condition itself. We've seen that bioengineering represents a paradigm shift in human evolution. For the first time, the primary agent of change is not the blind, slow process of natural selection, but our own conscious intelligence. We are taking the reins. We've reiterated the dual nature of this power. On one hand, the potential for good is almost unimaginable. The end of hereditary disease, the alleviation of immense suffering, the extension of healthy life, and the unlocking of human potential on a scale we've never seen. On the other hand, the ethical hurdles are significant. The risks of creating a dystopian world of inequality and biological castes are real and present. We stand at a crossroads. The path we choose now will echo for thousands of years. This isn't just about science. It's about our values. It's about what we, as a global civilization, decide we want to become. So, I want to leave you with one final, thought-provoking question. I'm not going to give you an answer because I don't have one. This is a conversation we all need to have together. If you had the chance, the safe and proven ability to bioenhance yourself or your children, would you do it? And if so, what would you change? What traits would you keep? What does your ideal human look like, and who gets to define that ideal? I genuinely want to know what you think. The conversation is just beginning. Please share your thoughts, your fears, and your hopes in the comments below. Let's learn from each other. And if you found this conversation valuable, share this video with someone you think needs to be part of it. We need as many voices as possible.
The future is a conversation, and your voice matters. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Future Vision Talks and hit the notification bell. We're just getting started on our journey to understand the future, and we'd love for you to come along for the ride. Until next time, stay curious. I'm Jordan, and we'll see you in the future.